Good morning, folks. John Adamson with Seeking Light. Hope you're having a good day. It is July 3rd, 2023, and I get to work today. Not a bad thing. I'm very happy to work. I'm glad I have a job. Glad I have a job that I work from home, but I do enjoy getting out in the morning. There is something about a commute that's kind of nice in some ways, depending on where you have to commute. So I've been out to stores. I've had interactions with somebody who could clearly see me, looking much like I do now. And there's been the occasion where the person behind the counter or whatever, I've asked a question and the reply comes back, "Yes, ma'am." And then the person quickly corrects themselves. But with that said, it happens. It happens. Even though, here I am, this bearded, bespectacled, grizzled-looking person who clearly doesn't look female, communicating with them. But it just happens, and they apologize. They correct themselves. Right now in Michigan, there's a bill that they're hoping to pass to law that will make it a criminal act to misgender someone. Now, more specifically, they're looking at more of like a harassment angle. Harassment is repeated offenses where you're repeatedly misgendering someone and you're seeking to do them, possibly do them harm in some way. So it might not be as simple as I'm a so-called transgender person on the receiving end of misgendering at a countertop, and I go, "You're discriminating against me. You're doing violence against me. I'm going to call the police." Although that is possible because, the way these laws are written, there's so much leeway in interpretation of these laws that there can't really be a guarantee that somebody will take a one-off accidental, on the part of the person speaking, accidental proclamation of the so-called wrong gender, and they could be looking at jail time. Now, Canada has already done this. There's a case in 2021 where a father who is father to a girl who went through medical transitional stuff and started calling herself by a male name. A father in Canada was arrested because he kept referring to his daughter rather than his son. In Canada, you cannot broadcast on even Christian radio some words or sections of scripture because they're clearly not in line with some of the sexual ideology of today. Now, Canada supposedly enjoys free speech like we do, but apparently not. And then, so we've got this bill in Michigan. In the last election cycle in Virginia, re-elected to the state house was a state representative up near D.C. who had vowed, if re-elected, she would push forward legislation that would make it a crime of a parent to deny their child transitional services. So at some point, we're going to see that probably in each and every single state. Yes, even the Alabamas, even the Texas states, even, these so-called staunchly conservative states, there's going to be more and more push for this kind of stuff. Now, it might not make it into law. Keep in mind, legislation, it doesn't mean that it's the law of the land. But all you need is the right group of people in the legislature and a governor who either holds the same ideology or is easily pressured, and it becomes law. Now, ultimately, it may be struck down if it's brought to the Supreme Court, as a First Amendment situation, which it's probably going to boil down to. And hopefully, we'll see that, because once you start seeing states, assuming our current SCOTUS will determine on behalf of the First Amendment, but once you start seeing states lose these lawsuits, maybe we'll put some end to this insanity. But you don't know, and we need to continue to pray and push and teach things that, like, words are not violence. I'm not committing violence against somebody by speaking true biology. I could say some pretty vile things to people, and I'm not committing violence to them. Now, I wouldn't do that, in general. I wouldn't, like, swear at people, call them names. Now, they might think I'm calling them names or saying something as bad as a swear if I refuse to use their, specific gender pronouns. I did have a situation this past week. It's the first time. I call a lot of people for my job, and I messaged a young person, or I should say the parent of a young person, to get this young person's number because she was old enough to speak for herself. And I had mentioned the pronoun her, and the parent responded back with they. And then I was looking at what demographics I had on this patient, and there was a female legal name, but then there was this, in parentheses, male name, one that we would associate with male. So I deduced pretty quickly that I was dealing with a transgender person. So when I called her, I, identified myself, I talked with her, I treated her with respect. And then I said, I understand you prefer to be called blank. And she affirmed that. I said, okay. I don't have to say, well, no, your name is. I don't know this person. And certainly she has a right to change her name if she wants. But I could not then go on to say, if I knew directly that this was a biological female, well, you're only a biological female. I didn't have, one, that ability, and two, there was no reason within my job parameters to do that. So where possible, I guess what I'm getting at is, where possible, a Christian really should seek to love these people who are definitely confused, respect them as fellow human beings who are made in the image of God, but just like we are fallen, in a fallen state, and try to be courteous and loving and kind to them. And then, of course, as opportunity opens, present the gospel of Jesus Christ, because it's Jesus who changes people, takes hearts of stone and changes them to hearts of flesh, as the scripture says, washes over their sin. And the God who justifies will also sanctify. In other words, make more like a God-ordained human being, or the image of Christ, ultimately, a journey that all Christians will engage upon on this planet. While we have breath in our bodies, we'll have that opportunity to grow in the Lord. You know what? It is sweltering out here already, early in the morning, and I am wearing a flannel shirt, but I have to go work in a frigid basement. So anyway, I'm going to let you go. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Take care. God bless.